I always like to see people on our site who may not be in a leadership role, but they're working alongside their leader. And before you know it, they're leading them through a task.
Exactly.
It's very empowering for people. So, which is, I think, one of the unique things about Habitat. It provides a very tangible, hands-on experience for people, and you can put some leadership traits to work there.
Well, Standing in the Gap is about giving back. It's about showing up for people who have no one else to show up for them. I am Dr. Tonjua Williams, president of St. Petersburg College, and you are listening to Standing in the Gap. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Standing in the Gap with Dr. Tonjua Williams. Today, we have the president and chief executive officer at Habitat for Humanity serving Pinellas, West Pasco, and Hernando counties here, Mr. Mike Sutton. You know, the thing about Habitat for Humanities is that it helps us build new homes and help folks have a better life. And that's all of what SPC is all about, is making sure individuals get a better job, live a better life, and create better communities. That's also what Habitat does, right?
That's exactly what we do.
All over the world. And so, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. Talk about your new son and what's happening in the life of Mike Sutton.
Yeah. My new son is like the joy of my life, right? So I never thought I'd have kids, and it was kind of a little bit of a surprise. But raising a child in your mid-40s is an exciting thing, right?
Yeah.
He's been just such a joy and such a blessing. Totally gives you a completely different perspective on things.
How old is he?
He's right now he's 2 months old. So yeah, he just came running out. So we're excited though. It's been such a blessing.
That's amazing. And how long have you been in Pinellas?
So I grew up in Tampa. So I grew up in Tampa. I went to Gaither High School, graduated from USF, went away for a while. I lived a couple years in Indianapolis. I lived 5 years in Texas, which is where I hooked up with Habitat.
Gotcha.
And then I moved back here in 2009. And so I've been in Pinellas ever since.
That's wonderful. You know, for me, I've been in Pinellas all my life, but Habitat for Humanities has made such a huge impact to me over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Just like spreading the love throughout the community and helping people get their very first home.
Yeah.
For some of them, it's their forever home. For some of it may be a stepping stone.
Sure.
But how did Habitat start, and where did they get the concept of helping people not only become financially sustainable, being able to budget, plan, and get a house?
Yeah, the organization started back in the 70s.
Really?
There was a couple, Linda and Millard Fuller, who started the organization with the idea of just bringing the community together and wrapping your arms around a family in need of housing. The organization, very grassroots when it started. The concept actually came to Millard and Linda when they were on a marriage retreat in Zaire, Africa.
Wow.
And so they came back to the States and said, hey, we have this idea of kind of like this neighborhood wall raising, neighborhood coming out and helping to build a house, and the family putting in sweat equity, and how else do you build intergenerational wealth and through homeownership? And what if we offer these zero interest mortgages that just continue, and those funds help to build the next house? The organization, just kind of started that way. Early 80s, after his term as president, Jimmy Carter got involved with Habitat in around 1984. And that's really where the organization took off and became much more known.
Right, nationally.
A lot of people think he started it and that he was the CEO, post-presidency. But he didn't. And the organization really over the last, I would say, 20 years has grown significantly to a place now where we're in 70 plus countries around the world. We have 1,100 locations across the U.S. They're all independent organizations. And we're serving millions of families on an annual basis.
I had the pleasure about 4 months ago of coming to one of the, I guess we were dedicating a home.
Yeah.
And it happened to be an SPC student. She had contacted me. She said, Dr. Williams, please come. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I've been to several. That wasn't my first celebration. But this was my first where the son was crying because he was so touched that they have a home. And so I actually asked the young man, why are you crying? He said, my mother worked so hard to do this and I couldn't help her. And then one of the ladies leaned over and said, but you did help her by your grades.
Grades.
And so talk a little bit about it seems to me you guys have built a system where even the child can contribute to the home development by actually getting good grades and good behavior in school. And he stopped crying when she reminded him that every grade you earned helped, with building the house. How does that work?
Well, first off, kudos to you for, supporting a student and coming out to her dedication. But it's a great example of how kids are always watching, right? They're watching every movement their parents make. And we tell when the families get accepted into the program, we have a conversation with the kids and we say, hey, look, it's going to be rough over the next 18 to 24 months. You're not going to see your parents as much, or you're not going to see mom as much. There's a lot of classes she has to do. She has to do the sweat equity, so the weekends might be more busy. We try to help them understand at the end of the day, the end product and what their parents are able to achieve for them is going to be pretty just absolutely amazing. But the cool thing about Habitat is we found a way for the kids to contribute sweat equity hours, right? So each family that comes through our program has to do all this education, but they also have to put in hundreds of sweat equity hours. And so a way for children to do that, because we can't, from a liability standpoint, have
them out there
can't have an 8-year-old jumping up on the roof, or although they'd love it, they can't do that. So one way for them to do it is to get good grades in school. And if they get A's and B's on their report card, or kids in kindergarten stuff get, I guess, O's and S's, whatever it is, we give them hours towards their parents' sweat equity hours. So it's a way for them to help contribute to their parents' success and their family's success.
I could tell that it meant a lot to him that he contributed.
Sure.
And he was super proud.
Yeah.
And super proud. And I'm crying because he's crying. But I thought it was so important to know that with Habitat for Humanity's, for people to build their homes, their children also have skin in the game. Yeah. And what that means to me is that the child would take pride in that home because they know I helped do that.
Yeah.
I was a part, of that. And so for me, from your perspective, for children to see their parents get a home, it's a big deal.
It is. And every situation is different and they never get old, right? So I was just looking while I was waiting in the green room, I was looking at my phone, and we actually celebrated the 308th home this time 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so we're now at 920 homes. So we've built the majority of our homes really in the last 10 years. And I love that about Facebook, the memories that pop up. It reminds us what we've done.
Up.
But each one of those families that we serve has a unique story and comes to us in a different way. But the lives that have been changed of the children is something that, again, when they walk through that front door for the first time, they run and find their bedroom, and then they just stand there. And they just look, and that their life is forever changed from that moment moving forward. And they've been watching their parents the whole time, and so that's the unique component to it, is they see how hard their parents work.
Well, I think too is life changing. So when we talk about standing in the gap, it's a way for them to learn something that their parents have done, that organizations stood in the gap to help them do. Yeah. And now their life is forever changed, because there's nothing like having a home, and that.
Yep.
That's the whole premise behind, Habitat, is making sure that people not only have a place to live, but a place to grow and be proud of and thrive. So when I was there, I think there were 2 donors who gave bicycles to the mom and the son. And someone gave some other gifts. People were there bearing gifts, saying, okay, you're a new homeowner, we're going to help you get started. So you guys go above and beyond just the home.
Yeah.
And that's just...
Well, we're changing communities, with the homes that we're building,
right?
Right? And so that particular house that you're referring to, that's in an area of the Lealman community where it's been underserved for decades, right? And so we were able to build 13 homes right there in that little cluster. And that has drastically changed the face of that neighborhood, which has been very rental heavy. You drop 13 homeownership families right there, and it totally changes the fabric of the neighborhood. And what's cool is, again, seeing the folks come out and present the family with gifts, or, just welcoming them to the neighborhood is, it's heartwarming, and it's something we don't see a lot anymore.
The families did come out and welcome them. They did stand and watch. And I think the person too her left had just moved in their home and
Yeah.
was congratulating her and saying how happy they are. And, because there's nothing like having a place to call yours.
Sure.
Sometimes for those of us who can do that, it may be underrated. We're like, oh, well, we got a house. But you have others who say, now I have a life.
Yeah.
Now I can do this. Now I can do that. And so when you go back and check on them years later,
Yeah.
what are you seeing? Are the majority still moving in the right direction? And
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, it really does. I always say that when we hand over the keys at the dedication, and you've been a part of that,
I have.
it's symbolic of breaking the cycle of poverty, right? All of a sudden, from that day moving forward, they are building wealth every day through that
right,
mortgage
through that
payment.
mortgage.
We see families that get to a place where they're going back to school and improving their education. We see a lot of people come back to
Yeah,
SPC.
SPC.
We see grades of the children improve. For the first time, the kids aren't changing schools every year because their parents are looking for a place they can afford.
Yep.
They're now able to anchor into a
Stable.
community. And they're building friendships and so we see relationships improve, the stableness. We see financial improvement happen. We see people. We have a woman who actually has a seat on our board of directors. She's a Habitat homeowner. She bought her home
wow.
9 years ago.
Okay.
She was a CNA at the time. She's now an RN, and she's making six figures and doing
it.
extremely well. And both of her kids are rock stars. They're both in high school, but they're just doing so well. And the confidence that I've seen in her grow over the last 9 years is just, you can't even.
And that's how you break that generational poverty, because the children get to see, well, if my mom or dad could do it, I can most certainly, I can do it. I think what I see in that as well is pride.
For sure.
It is total pride. They feel, now I can live my life. Now
Well,
I
look
can.
what they just achieved,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the families we serve, mostly single moms, 75% of the
Yeah.
families are single moms, but they are working full time, sometimes two jobs. Sometimes they're working on some sort of education outside of that. And then, hey, Habitat comes along and says, put in hundreds of sweat equity hours, do 36 homebuyer education classes. They're moving mountains to get to a place to own their own home.
Exactly.
And so, but that pride that comes with that, I think the confidence that it builds that, hey, I can achieve anything. Look what I
can
just
do
did.
this. I can achieve. So when we talk about the applicants, because I know you have more applicants than you have space for.
Sure.
Do you see folks try more than once, or do they just apply once and don't get it and then they don't try again?
No, the average applicant has applied 2 to 3 times with us.
Okay.
So we actually, when someone applies to us, if they don't qualify based on their need for housing, their ability to pay a mortgage, and their willingness to partner with us, which means the classes and sweat equity, if there's something that's keeping them from getting approved, we give them an action plan and say, this is what you need to work on to come back.
Oh,
Sometimes
nice.
it's things like they have
Very
something in
nice.
collections they got to get out. We don't look at credit score, but they can't have anything active in collections. So they may have to clean that up. Maybe they need an official divorce decree, which I didn't realize how many people out there get divorced, but they don't
never
really
get divorced.
So there's little things that they may have to go clean up and then come back and reapply. So I would say the average family has applied at least twice to our program before they get in. What's good about that is we end up getting the families that get into the program are the
They're
cream of the
committed.
crop.
That's
They're
right.
going to get
They're
to the
committed.
finish line.
They're committed to
Yeah.
see their dreams come true and move forward. Now, for funding, I think you guys have funding different streams
Yeah.
to help make this happen. I know that a lot of companies and different
Yeah,
groups
yeah.
help contribute materials and things of that nature. So how do you build these partnerships? Is it something that you as CEO, you're constantly going out and seeking partners, or?
Yeah, I think I spend the majority of my time kind of out and about in the community. And we've really built an amazing team at Habitat that has gotten deep and wide in the community. So we're always looking for ways to leverage our brand to help others. But at the same time, how do we lift up Habitat and find new opportunities to build homes? We're right now in discussions with HGTV about a show that we're going to be working on in January.
Right.
We're doing all kinds of stuff. So, and really it's more about building the brand than anything. And people want to be a part of a winning brand, right?
Absolutely.
And so we feel like at Habitat, we've built an organization that is seen outside of just a nonprofit or just outside of that organization with their hand out. We feel like we bring something to the table and bring value to the table, and thus people are willing to partner with us and find ways to work together.
Well, for me as a college, and you get a chance to talk to the education community, what would you say to the education community that we could do to help, your clients? Or help Habitat in general? What could that be?
I think one of the biggest ways that Habitat can help the college is, whether it's students or even employees, there's such a need for housing. There's need for housing across all spectrums. And so I think Habitat can be one of those resources for the college. How do we get folks who are interested in staying here long-term in our community? We can anchor them here, right? And we've seen SPC employees that have come through our program. There's so many misconceptions about what we do. People think it's a free home, we give them away, all that stuff. But the people we partner with, teachers and firefighters and police officers and home health care workers, they're people that we come in contact with every day. So there's that resource of home ownership through our program that people, may not be able to achieve outside of Habitat. Between a down payment and then the cost of home is just through the roof.
Right. It is. And we're finding that at SPC, more and more, our employees don't live in Pinellas. They're driving an hour, hour and a half sometimes to get to work, to and from. And I think that by partnering more and letting them know or availing, I think just making sure they understand Habitat is an option for them would be helpful. Have you guys thought about condos, or is that something that you're like, nah, we just do the standalone?
I don't want to get into the condo business with everything going on with insurance and condos, but we actually are doing some multifamily stuff. So we have 4 subdivisions right now in St. Pete that are townhome communities. It allows us to build more units, in a denser area.
That's nice.
So we have about 65 units under construction in St. Pete. So that allows us to do some stuff a little bit differently. It's also really good for, I talk about the single moms, right? If you're raising a couple kids and you're working full time, you may not want to have to worry about your yard. I also think of an older couple that maybe they're done with having to care for a yard. So there's options like that now through Habitat where it's not just single family homes. We also have, the townhomes, which are fee simple, they're owner occupied.
Very nice. I've grilled you a lot about Habitat. Outside of Habitat, what other volunteer things or groups are you involved in?
Oh gosh, I'm involved with the CEO Council of Tampa Bay. I've enjoyed kind of getting involved with them. Something I'm really passionate about is the Valspar Championship. I've served as a Copperhead for about 10 years.
And that's at Innisbrook?
At Innisbrook every spring. Big golf tournament that is really in existence to raise dollars to give back to charity. So every year we give back, $1 million to $2 million to local Tampa Bay charities.
One of those charities is St. Pete College.
That's right.
I just want you to know that.
There you go.
So keep up the good work on that.
I'm involved with USF. I try
Bulls.
I try to do whatever I can to kind of give back to university. I was a first generation college grad. And, I often talk about how that's like my proudest accomplishment. I was not a studier. I was not someone who got into books, right? And I went to college for the social aspect. My 2.6 GPA shows that, but I got a degree, and that's all that matters. So, but yeah, I'm, Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is something that's really close to me. I've had Crohn's disease since I was 26. And,
wow, I did not know.
Yeah, so I try to, do work to help them raise money. So I spread myself very thin.
Your son might be helping you carve that down a little bit.
It's already helped. It's already helped.
Say, okay, I'm going to have to be home a little bit more, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so what would you tell the audience if they wanted to be Mike Sutton, if they wanted to do what you're doing? What would you tell students if they wanted to get into nonprofit work or with Habitat?
I got into the nonprofit sector by accident. I kind of fell into it, right? I was in college and I was looking for something to do, and I got hooked up with the YMCA. It was my first exposure to extreme poverty. I was working at the Y in Tampa Heights. I had never really seen extreme poverty to that extent, and what really kind of got me were the young boys. Like they would latch on to me because they didn't have a male figure.
They could relate. To have you there was a big deal.
Exactly. And so that really was kind of what got me excited about the nonprofit sector. And then as I learned more, I'm like, wow, you can actually make a career out of working in the nonprofit sector. May never be a millionaire, However, feeling good about what I do. I grew up in a household, my parents did really well, but both of them, kind of struggled with happiness around their careers, right? They worked really hard, they did really well, but they weren't happy with what they were doing. And on the flip side, I now have a job that for 10 plus years, I have hiccups. I have days where I just want to bounce my head against the wall. But at the end of the day, I love what I do.
Love what you're doing.
Every morning when I show up, I'm excited to walk into the office, right? I never want to be in a place where I'm sitting in the car for 30 minutes like, I really don't want to go into that building today. And I think that's really important. So I would say for students, it's so important to find something they're passionate about and lean into that. And there is something out there, and it could be in any specific field, but I think, finding something you're passionate about and finding a way to kind of really channel into that.
Yeah. For the audience, there's a big difference between a career and a job. And what Mike just described is he's found his career and there's passion behind his purpose. He knows what he wants and the impact that he wants to make. When you have a job, it's not really a good fit. It's something I just got this job, I got to make this money, and I'm not happy. There's not even one happy day. And so you have to really look at what is the passion behind your purpose and what do you want to be known for? When people say your name, what do you want them to say? Man, Mike Sutton, I'm telling you right now, the guy changed my life. I wasn't going to do it. I did it, and now I have a home. I'm getting ready to buy my second home. And so it's a good start. And that's the difference between a career and a job.
Sure.
And you have to think about that when you're looking at what we want to be. And you'll hear me say over and over that St. Petersburg College will not teach a student into poverty. Mike is saying we are going to help people get out of poverty and to be in prosperity by home ownership. And we're doing it with education. And so you get educated and a home, you're gone.
You're done.
You're done.
You're good.
You're good to go, and you definitely move forward. Mike, you listed a lot of groups and organizations that you support, and rightfully so. But you also said that being in the nonprofit world might not make you a lot of money. You can live in it, but you may not make a lot of money. So how did you balance the difference between happiness and money? And how did you make the decision that you're going to stay into the, sort of like the service world?
Yeah. So there is kind of this misconception that you can't make a good living in nonprofit, and you can. I think it's all about hooking up with the right organizations that see the importance of investing in their staff, finding ways to train their staff. One of the things that I get very frustrated with is that in the nonprofit sector, we're expected to change lives, but we're expected to do it on a shoestring budget. And I have an amazing board of directors who gives me a lot of autonomy. And when we're hitting goals and when we're doing things, we also have the flexibility to invest back in our team.
Exactly.
And so I'm proud of what we've been able to do with our team in terms of compensation and benefits and investing in their future and trainings and education. And that's what keeps people around. I joke that you'll never be a millionaire working in the nonprofit sector, but the enrichment that it gives you in terms of giving back to the community, feeling good about what you do, changing people's lives. Again, there's just so many people out there that are not happy with what they're doing on a daily basis. We see that every day. We see it all over social media, and I get surprised when I see people, blasting their employer on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or I get a little defensive about it because I'm like, well, number one, does your employer even know that you feel that way? But number two, that's not the way to do it.
It's not the way to share it.
It's not the way to share it.
For sure.
But be a part of changing that culture. And we talk a lot about culture at Habitat, and we've built a culture where people feel valued, they feel like they can speak their mind, they feel they're a part of an organization that's changing people's lives. And you can have that family feel, but yet still remain professional.
And that family feel and culture is so important, but it's something that the CEO cannot build alone.
Correct.
It's the entire group. Being able to have the autonomy to make decisions, but also the freedom to ask questions or make suggestions is important to building that culture. Because I do know that it is so much easier to keep the people you have.
100%.
and to retain the talent, right?
Yep.
And for us, we're really looking at talent retention and making sure that the employee experience is just as important as the student experience. And so we've spent the last couple of years really working on building that employee experience, because when you look at the work that we're doing, it's better to have them there and to keep them there than to start over. But I think the thing for sustainability is people feeling valued and appreciated.
100%.
It's important that people can walk in the building and feel like someone's going to say good morning, someone's going to recognize them, someone's going to say good morning back and speak to them, someone's going to allow them to say, hey, Mike, got a few minutes? Can I ask you this question? And as CEO, we get that all the time.
Yeah, well, and you probably experience this. I know for me, I've had to really work hard, with my executive coach to slow down sometimes. Like I leave my office and I know where I'm going, and sometimes it's like I'm power walking down the hallway and I walk past 12 people and forget to say hello.
Don't say hello.
But they feel that, right? And they see that.
They do,
So
and they talk about it later.
They
that you walked by them and did not speak.
Yeah. Dr. Williams in a bad mood today, or Dr. Williams didn't want to talk to me, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, you just were going from point A to point B.
You're right on that. You can't let the work dictate how you work with your people. You can't let the stress of the day dictate how you're going to treat them, because it only takes one time of ignoring them and it goes and spread like wildfire.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want that. So I know for us at the college, the employee experience is like a number one thing that we're working on. We got a big ship to turn, but it is working and we're doing really, really well with that. I'm glad to hear what you guys are doing at Habitat, what my executive team did a day. And we felt it. We felt the love. We felt the value and appreciation.
Fixed everything you guys did that day.
I know you did, because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing, but
I always joke with people that we fix
felt
it.
so good.
Yeah.
The whole team was like, wow, we should be doing this more. Taking that time. Strangely, it built more team building with my team. My team felt more like, hey, we should try that again. We should, talking, jeans on, dirt all over us, just doing what needs to be done. It's a big deal. I
always like to see people on our site who may not be in a leadership role, but they're working alongside their leader. And before you know it, they're leading them through a task.
Exactly.
It's very empowering for people. So, which is, I think, one of the unique things about Habitat. It provides a very tangible, hands-on experience for people, and you can put some leadership traits to work there.
Listen, and it was on Facebook before we got to our cars. And I know I had my team sharing my job when we did Habitat was we were getting all of the, I guess it was pieces of bricks and things off the side and digging up the stuff. And I'm trying to dig. Dr. Williams, let me do it. You don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. I could do this, so I refuse to not get it done, but we got it done. But it really built a lot of teamwork for my team. We really came together, and the conversations the SPC had on, we all were dressed together and just had a great time. And I know my basketball team has done it.
Yeah, we've had a number of the sports teams come out.
Yeah, they've come out and worked. And because giving is exhilarating, and people don't understand that. But when you know you're giving back as much as you've received, and you're like, I'm going to invest because someone invested in us. And so as Habitat is doing the work, they're helping other people give back the way that they want, that they received. And so it's very important. I like it. I love it. Mike, you've really given me a better understanding of how Habitat originated and how it works. How do you sustain it? How does the money roll in? Can you give us a little bit of data, not deep, but just how does it all work?
It's a very convoluted answer, but I'll try to sum it up really easy. We were talking about public-private partnerships earlier, right? And the importance of that. And it really has been about building our brand and building the awareness around Habitat, breaking down misconceptions. The Habitat program is set up in a way where those mortgage payments as they come in is almost like a revolving fund, right? So we've now built 920 homes. You think about that, 920 mortgages coming in and going right back out the door to build the next house. Kind of set up in a unique way like that. And then the philanthropy dollars that we raise out in the community really help us to grow and do more work. And so that's really what's allowed the growth. When I took this role 10 and a half years ago, we were a $5 million organization building 20 homes a year. We are now a $37 million organization building 80 plus homes a year. And so we're on track to do somewhere around 85 to 90 homes this year. But that doesn't happen without talented people, a loving community, and people really wrapping their arms around the work that we do. We're the only builder that is doing the work that we do in our space. There's a lot of affordable housing providers, but no one is doing affordable home ownership at the 80% of AMI and below. And at the end of the day, it's because the numbers are hard to make work. And, you know, from a for-profit standpoint, nobody's going to get into the business of affordable housing. So, but you know, Habitat does it well. It's a very well-oiled machine at this point in terms of the relationships we've built in the community are deep and wide. The programs we've put together, the education programs, are extremely strong.
That's amazing.
And that's, you know, what's led to the success of the organization. So I just happen to, you know, have the luxury of being out talking about it.
That's
but
amazing.
We have an amazing team, an amazing community.
So Mike, this is my last question. I know I've grilled you a lot, but you know, the impact of Habitat is just so broad and so wide. I mean, and it includes so many components. You have the actual home builder who's doing the work, sweat equity, the training, the family, the kids, brother and sisters, everybody coming in to help build. You have the donors who are giving equipment and things like that. You have those who are actually investing the dollars. And then you have the whole transformation of the community, right? Because there's hardly any group that can say, look, we have impacted the entire community and lives in the community and the community, the whole thing. How do you sustain that, and how does that all work out?
Well, and at the end of the day, now we have almost 1,000 homeowners paying a couple $1 million in property taxes every year.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So yeah, so it's, I mean, when you really think about it, it's a win-win for everyone. When we build a Habitat home, the entire community, that community where we're building that house benefits. Every house on that block benefits, those families that live on that block. We have to be very, very intentional with the work that we do to continue to engage volunteers at a high level, to continue to show donors that their investment goes a long way. It takes us twice as much work to raise the same amount of money. You guys probably see the same thing, right? I mean, you know, that inflation thing we've been feeling, that's real.
It's real.
COVID screwed everything up. And so it takes a lot of work. It takes us about, from when I started 10 and a half years ago, we raised probably twice as much for every home than what we did 10 years ago. So that's, you know, you do the math. I mean, it's a significant amount of money to make the whole thing continue to move forward, but there's a need. And as long as there's a need, and as long as we have businesses that are willing to help us out and swing a hammer, as long as we have community organizations willing to come out, as long as we have homeowner partners that are looking for an opportunity, you know, as long as there's property. You got any property that we can build on? As long as we have property, I know. As long as there's property to build on, you know, we'll continue to find ways to chip away at and be a part of the solution. We know we can't be everything. We're just one part, that affordable homeownership part. It all goes back to the partnerships we've been talking about.
It does. You know, for those in the audience, we just talked about how you can be a homeowner, how you can live your best life and make the rest of your life the best of your life, how you can learn to be sustainable and take care of your families, and what partnerships go into play to make it all work. And I can tell you, Habitat for Humanity, they have the secret sauce. And so if you are looking for a home and an opportunity, and you're willing to work, and you're willing to make those changes and adjustments, you could definitely do that through this amazing organization. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I really
appreciate you.
Thank you.